So basically,
Here we go. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us, sir.
good morning and thank you for having me with you on this show. My pleasure.
Vision India Forum welcomes General Manoj Mukund Naravane ji, the man who led the Indian Army as the 20th COAS. A man who came from a very, kind of distinguished background. His father, having served in the Indian Air Force as the wing commander, rose to the ranks of being the chief of the staff of commission, staff committee. Post Mr. Rawat's unexpected demise in the helicopter crash in 2021. Mr. Naravane led the Indian Army from the front. He was also a military attaché in the Myanmar region at Yangon. Mr. Naravane, General Naravane, I'm sorry, I've been taught this, that you need to address army people with the ranks. And I will not repeat the mistake, hopefully, because we civilians are not used to it. General Naravane will take us today through the leadership traits, as a 5-star leadership qualities that are required to lead 15 lakh people in this country, a nation of 140 crore people, and 1.4 billion people. General Naravane is a very distinguished and accomplished kind of a successor to many generals in the past. Third from the Sikh infantry. And General Naravane was also somebody who got an opportunity to lead all the three forces, the three Shaktis as we call, the Indian Air Force, the Navy, and the Territorial Army. So this is something which we missed out from Rawat ji, General Rawat, because we were scheduled for a meeting with General Rawat, but we could not meet him. And the issues around handling of the three Shakti as the chief of the staff committee, a new rank which was developed during Mr. Modi's era. Now all this and more from the 4-star general of the Indian Army, one of the greatest sons of India, General Manoj Mukund Naravane. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Amit. And once again, good afternoon to all of y'all. And my pleasure to be here with the Vision India Forum and to be able to share my views on this very important subject of leadership and management. And I'm often asked this question, that what are these leadership qualities that are so essential, especially in the armed forces? But right at the outset, I would like to say that the qualities which take you ahead or make you successful are actually more or less the same, whether it is in the armed forces or in the civil street, and whatever profession you might be in. And there are a whole range of leadership traits and qualities. You can start with, bravery, courage, dedication. You can run through the whole alphabet. But that is common, as I said, to everyone. If you're not a dedicated doctor, you will not do well. So similarly, you have to be in it, in whatever profession you might be. And if those qualities are there, then they will stand you in good stead in whatever profession you are in. And this is especially true of military officers when they make a transition to CV street. And the prime example of this is Lieutenant General P.S. Bhagat, who was an engineer officer. And on retirement, he was appointed the chairman of the Damodar Valley Corporation, which is a totally civil enterprise. And yet within a short span of just 10 months, he turned this loss-making organization into a profit-making organization. So the qualities are the same, whether you're in the army or in any other industry. But now, what would these qualities be? And as I said, there's no point, going through a whole range of these qualities, but I would like to stress on just three. And these are decision making, empathy, and selflessness. And we can discuss
So
these.
which is the third one, sir?
Selflessness. So if we come down to the first one, that is decision making, I think that is the most important trait of a leader, the ability to take decisions. And when you are taking decisions, these decisions will always be in a state of uncertainty. You will never have all the facts and figures that you would like to have. So that risk has to be taken. So when I say decision making, it also automatically implies the risk taking ability. That you take a decision, you're willing to take that risk, and you're taking that decision with a hope of success, not with a fear of failure. You're taking it because you know you will succeed in whatever you do. Whether you actually succeed or not, that the outcome of that decision will tell. And maybe that outcome, and whether that was a good decision or a bad decision, may even be known many years down the line. But the ability to take a decision is what is most important. And in this, I would like to give a small example of how, when we are selecting leaders for the armed forces, we go through our interview, the services selection board. And I, of course, also went through the same board. And during the interview, not me, but one of my other candidates who was there with me was asked a very tricky question, which I would like to share with all of you. And the tricky question was that your father is very seriously ill. And the doctor has said that he requires this particular medicine, which is only available in this town, which is half an hour away. And he has to get this medicine within the next 1 hour. Otherwise, the prognosis is very poor. He might even pass on. And it is raining heavily. It is night time. And you have only a bicycle. Those days, kids only had bicycles. They didn't have motorcycles and things. So he says that, so the doctor has said this, so you pick up your bicycle and you're pedaling furiously to the nearest town. But on the way, you see on the side of the road in the pond, because it's raining heavily, there is a man drowning. So now what will you do? This was the question which was posed to a 16-year-old. When a question like that is posed, you try to get out of it. You will say, no, I will cycle faster. You will say, I will, save the man and buy the medicine and save my father. But the examiner says that, no, not possible. This is the situation. In this situation, what do you want to? So most of us, we procrastinate. We avoid taking that decision. Or we try to find some loopholes in it. But the examiners there kept telling him, no, there is nothing more. Tell us, what will you do? So that boy said that I will jump and save that man who's drowning. And the examiners asked, that means you let your father die? He said, yes, I have to save someone. I'm saving this man. But he said, why? He said that my father would not like that his life is at the cost of another's life. Just see what a profound answer this 16-year-old gave. But what was the object of this question? The object of this question was to see whether you're ready to take a decision. That was the important. Whether you save X or save Y was not the crux of the matter. The crux was that you are willing to take a decision and stand by it. And that is the actual hallmark of a great leader. The ability to take that decision. So that is as far as decision making is concerned.
And would you talk about decentralized or centralized way of decision making? Probably the context could be a little different, because you see the buck stops here is what Harry Truman used to advocate. But in Indian context, in a lot of other contexts, especially going by whatever we see the kind of competitions that we face, the population issues. It's all about passing the buck, and it's all about basically I was not there when that happened, and collective responsibility is never the centric kind of a nucleus to any kind of a judgment with respect to a decision making capacity of a leader. So whether centralized, decentralized, buck stops here, the passing the buck, throw some light on that.
Well, when we come down to the decision making, there are various styles of leadership, and those styles of leadership differ with the situation. If it is a peacetime situation, then definitely there is time to take more views. If it is a wartime situation, you take a decision. You don't consult anyone. But in either case, the buck stops with you. Even if you have taken advice of 10 people, the decision still remains yours. And if it is good, it is your success. If it is bad, it is your failure.
General Saab, in case of decentralized decision making, because we are a federal country, now, does the final, outcome, the wrath of the final outcome always lay on the top leader, even if he has decentralized the leadership?
Yes, definitely. Like, see, in the army, we have our army commands. So the army commander or the general officer commanding in chief, he is responsible for his command. But that does not mean if something goes wrong there, I, as the chief, was not responsible. Obviously, as the head of the organization, as the head of the family, you are always responsible. This is not just for organizations. You might allow your son to go and take the car and drive it. But if he meets with an accident, it's your responsibility that you allowed him to take that car out. So decentralization is of the responsibility, the authority to take a decision. But that moral responsibility remains yours.
General Sahib, if the top leader says, I decentralized it, my regional manager or my commander of that particular command, he took that decision, and there was a boomerang, or they call a backlash to it, then would the responsibility now be joint for both the commander, of the regional command and the top commander, or would it only be the responsibility of the regional commander because he took the decision, he had the authority?
The buck always stops with the topmost man, whether good or bad. And to say that I wasn't there when it happened is an escapist tendency. Suppose you were not there and a good thing happened, you take credit for it. That time you don't say that I wasn't there. That time you want to bask in that glory. If something has gone wrong, even if you were not there, buck is still stopping with you. There is no escaping the fact, and that is what, that is.
Sir, the second quality is empathy. It is something which is the most, I believe personally, it is the most important quotient that matters in leadership. We talk about IQ, we talk about, human development index, but in all this, empathy quotient in medical profession, this is a very rare thing today in the competitive scenario that we live in. Please go ahead with what you want to say on that.
So now, when it comes to empathy, and this is a little bit related also to decision making. In empathy, you're conscious of the other person's needs and feelings. And when you're conscious of that, you will automatically look for different views and different opinions. And you're conscious that different sets of people could have different needs. And those needs may not be the same as yours. And that is how, you build up that information bank, which helps also in your decision making process. Now times change, and just because times have changed doesn't mean the next generation has to do the same thing that you did. Now, when I was a young officer, we did not have roads going to every post. We would have to walk up and down everywhere. But now we have roads. Does that mean people still have to walk up and down everywhere? Or to say that, in my view, people are soft, they'll go in vehicles. They're going in vehicles because roads are there. If roads were not there, they would have also walked. So, you can't just say that in my time it was like that, so you will also do it that way only, even if times have moved on, even if, technology has replaced many other things which had to be done manually. As I said, now roads have come up. If you can go in a vehicle, why not? That time saved can be used for more productive things. So that is where it comes in, to be able to understand the needs of your, command, what we say. But when I say command, it means the needs of your workers. If you're the, head of a hospital, the needs of your doctors as well as the patients. So you have to be able to understand all that. And if you're a good leader, and if you have that EQ, that emotional quotient, you will be able to gauge the mood, not only of an individual, but even if you walk into a room or in a new office, or when you go visiting units, moment you enter, you will be able to make out whether there is a happy unit, or whether this is a unit which is working under tension. That will only happen if you have your antenna out at all times and gathering this vibes, as they say, which come up. And that is a very important quality.
And now we talk about the last one, selflessness. I mean, I somehow feel that if you have all these three together, it's quite a potent combination on a suicide mission, I guess.
Selflessness is, in fact, that is our motto also, service before self. But it is not just service before self, again related to decision making. The decision that you take has to be for the greater good. It might not always be a very likable decision. The decision will not be to the benefit of 100% of the people that you command. There will always be some people who will feel disadvantaged by that decision. But you took it not for your own benefit, but for the greater good of the organization. And as long as hesitancy or anything like that as far as the armed forces are concerned on accepting women in our rank and file, and not only as officers, we are even opening up the doors to them in the soldiers category as sailors, airmen. So it has all been opened up, and you cannot have uh, half your population. If women are 50% of our population, you can't have 50% of our population not part of the workforce. We have to give them equal opportunity. And I was
Combat
asked this question. I was asked this question when I went for the POP in NDA. That when can we expect to see a women officer at the helm? I said 42 years. That's what it took me. So you will have some time or the other by a process, but definitely the sky is the limit.
42 years, I didn't understand. What is the concept of 42 years?
When I was asked in NDA that the first women cadet has entered the NDA, so when can we expect to see the first woman as a chief? I said 42 years because that's how long it took me from NDA to become the chief. So, it is not something which will happen overnight. It will happen in its due time. And we have to give that much time.
And what about combat roles, sir? Uh, are you believer that women are also made for combat roles, like it's shown in movies?
You know, we have slowly and steadily inducting more than women into the armed forces. And as that intake happens, obviously they will also bifurcate into various roles. And those will include being in the combat zone. No, I wouldn't say combat role, but combat zone. And in the combat zone, anything can happen to anyone. A bullet or a shell which is fired from 20 kilometers away and landing 20 kilometers inside their own territory does not know who is a combatant and who is a non-combatant, who's from the infantry and who's from the medical or the service corps. Where it lands, and whoever is in that killing area will suffer. So
So how you compare
this
how,
distinction, is going away between
so how
combatants and non-combatants.
General Saab, how do you compare the Indian Army with the, say, if we talk about the Chinese Army, the PLA? How would you compare these two? Because recently concluded altercations in the Tibetan region, especially in Galwan, probably told a story which was unfinished, left unfinished in 1962.
No, you see, there is no doubt that our soldiers are much better than anything you can find anywhere in the world. Our soldiers come from a very hardy stock, from the rural areas of India, from our villages. They have then molded and given the training to accomplish their task, which they take on willingly. They can take on much more hardships than I think anyone else in the world. They're not soft. They're both physically and mentally strong, which comes out of their upbringing and the roots that they have in their villages. And that is the inherent strength of our armed forces, especially the army.
But that holds true for all developing nations. What is the distinguishing factor of the Indian Army? Because, even an African soldier coming out of an impoverished background in, say, Egypt or, some other part of the country, world, they will also be coming from very, very big, tough hardships and impoverished backgrounds and competition. So what is the distinguishing factor? Janasa, should I repeat the question?
Yeah, you can repeat it and what frozen.
The point is that if people from developing nations are compared, like people from Africa and other countries, they also come from a very hardships and tough backgrounds and are from impoverished backgrounds, just like the Indian rural boys who come from such backgrounds. How do you compare the mental and physical capabilities, or is it that training, the kind of a culture of the Indian Army makes all the difference?
Yes, of course, background does play a part. And then once the background is good, the raw material is good, thereafter the other factors of training, etc., come into play. It is like a block of marble. If that block of marble is good, then you can chip away at it and then get an exquisite sculpture made. Similarly, our raw material is good. And from that raw material that we have, then we imbibe those qualities through continuous training, through our regimental spirit, through the ethos of the army and the armed forces. And that combination of all this makes a soldier what he is today.
What are the challenges that you faced in your career? If you have to list out a few challenges, 3, 4 of them, what are the key challenges? And then, as a chief of army staff, what are the key challenges you faced?
The challenges and the problems you face are different with every rank. Obviously, they will be so. And it is your ability to meet these challenges successfully that enables you to go up to the next rank. If not, then obviously you will stagnate there. It follows Peter's principle that a person rises to his level of what best he can do. So I feel that whatever challenges were there, and the challenges, as I said, are different in different assignments that you hold. And those challenges, obviously on the operational front, whether it is in counterinsurgency operations in the Northeast or counterinsurgency operations in the state of J&K, now Union Territory of J&K. Those challenges are, those are expected. And it is not something that it makes you uncomfortable or throws you out of gear. You're very much able to deal with that. And I think there'll be far too many to mention. But the more important thing is that you have to face up to those challenges and find ways to overcome them.
General Saab, in army during the war times, especially, if I talk about the field marshal ranks, the 5-star general, General Karyappa and General Manekshaw were bestowed with these 2 ranks, 5-star generals. What is the process, or is it just that luck? Because there have been wars that India fought even after or before Manekshaw and even after Mr. Karyappa. What makes the government decide on bestowing the rank of a field marshal or a 5-star general to a serving general?
I can only comment on the army part of it. No, the ranks are a functional requirement. It is not for show. So if you have more than one army fighting a battle, then you need somebody on top to coordinate both those armies. And therefore you had a rank of field marshal. Like in Second World War, where you had US Army, you had UK Army, you had Australian Army. So many armies were together. And each of those armies was being headed by a 4-star general. So you needed somebody over and above that. And therefore you had field marshals. You had Field Marshal Eisenhower, Montgomery, so many of them.
In 71, Manekshaw
was a 4-star general. He was not a field marshal. It is only Indian Army which was fighting. So in our context, a functional rank of a field marshal, as of now, does not exist. But moving on, once a CDS gets an operational role, it might well be in the right scheme of things that the CDS should be a 5-star general or equivalent, that is Marshal of the Air Force or Admiral of the Fleet. Again, it is a functional requirement. That is
General Manik Shah was not a field marshal.
No, he was conferred the title of field marshal much later.
Okay,
Not during the war. He was
so
four-star general.
so how does it align with your comment about being functional, sir?
As I said, going ahead, now that the appointment of a CDS has been created, the CDS is also now four-star. But the CDS as a four-star general has also four-star generals equivalent under him for better command and control and functionally to make the system more efficient. The CDS ideally should be a five-star.
Okay, so now you've already led me to my next observation. You see, you are in effect the first kind of a CDS that we have on board with us. And effectively, there was a chief of staff, combined staff. I remember Air Chief Marshal Arup Raha being the first chief of the combined staff. When the CDS was not officially, kind of formulated, then General Rawat was the first CDS that we had. You were the second one, right? In terms of being the official CDS of the country.
No, that's not quite the correct way to put it. Before, what happens is you have a chiefs of staff committee. That is all the chiefs put together. And the senior most chief becomes the chairman of the chiefs of staff committee. And that is how it used to be, how it used to function. Now, whenever the senior most chief retired, the next senior most automatically became the chairman of the chiefs of staff committee. Now, this system automatically stopped once a CDS was appointed. Because the CDS became the permanent chairman of the Chiefs of Staff Committee. It did not become now rotational, that the senior most person will become the chairman of the Chief of Staff Committee. Unfortunately, with the demise of General Rawat, the post of permanent chairman became vacant. And since I was the senior most chief at that time, I became the officiating chairman of the Chief of Staff Committee. It was a de facto arrangement. You cannot say that I became the second CDS. We fell back to the old arrangement which used to exist of the senior most chief becoming the chairman of the Chiefs of Staff Committee for that duration till the next CDS is appointed.
Now, what do you, if you choose to, you may answer. What do you have to say to the current CDS's appointment in that case?
You need, once a CDS appointment has been created, then obviously it has to be filled up. And the government has filled it up. Right?
The protocol that you lay down, the senior most person in the, so I mean, from the Trishakti perspective, General Anil Chauhan, Lieutenant General Anil Chauhan, he was understood as the most senior out of all the chiefs of the three services.
No, Amit, I think you're not in the loop as far as the functioning is concerned. Lieutenant General Chauhan had retired. He was not an army chief. He had retired as the Eastern Army Commander, and the government has brought him back into the service with a 4-star rank and appointed him as the CDS. It's a totally different issue. But yes, okay, a CDS appointment is there and it has been filled.
And now, if we talk about the future going forward, we are towards the last couple of minutes, sir. You've given us so much time. If we talk about the future of the Indian Army and what are the things that the government needs to probably gear up fast so that the Indian Army is geared up to face challenges, especially looming large, especially from countries as big as China.
It is not something which is new. The threat perception which is there and the evaluation of the various threats and how to deal with it, that is a continuous process. It is not something that happens overnight or is just done once in a while. It is a continuous process with the changing dynamics, changing affiliations, changing world order. And based on that, we keep reassigning our priorities to various threats, and thereby to deal with those threats, what are the requirements? So that is a continuous process which has been ongoing even before me, during my time, and thereafter. And whatever is required to meet those threats and challenges, those requirements are projected, whether it be in terms of manpower, technology, capital acquisitions, weapons, ammunition. Those requirements are projected, and the acquisition of those capabilities keeps going on.
General Saab, General Naravane Saab, in today's era, when the wars are being fought more from the data, from the cyberspace perspective, from the data perspective, from the diplomacy perspective, what qualities, I mean, it's not the same as it used to be probably in 60s and 48 and 71, even in 99. Suddenly things have changed upside down. We don't need a 6'3" tall kind of a Massachusetts Sardar, sitting, it's a technology era. So now, what are the, if I say that we need to have somebody who is, it's just like, in case of public sector companies, it's always headed, most of the time we feel a lot of times, it's not headed by a technical or a person who is brought out from the internal ranks. An IAS officer is brought somebody from somewhere and is put there as the chairman. In case of army, the army reports to the joint secretary, the secretary level defense secretaries who are again IAS officers. So
I would like to interrupt, Amit.
Yeah.
The army does not report to the defense secretary. The army reports to the Raksha Mantri. There's a big difference. The defense secretary is a bureaucrat. He is an assistant to the Raksha Mantri. The armed forces report to the Raksha Mantri. They do not report to the IAS. This is a misnomer, and this fallacy has to be, countered. This is a very misconception that people have.
Do you also report to the MOS defense?
Minister of State.
Yeah.
Obviously, we report to the ministry, the elected representatives of the government. That is who we are responsible to.
Sir, your experience of Mr. Modi's leadership style, did he step in directly with you guys as the helm of the army, at the helm of the army, or was it only through Mr. Rajnath Singh or through the defense minister that he communicated with you?
No, all the chiefs, all the 3 service chiefs used to have regular interactions with the Prime Minister. And during these interactions, he used to listen to us very patiently as to what we are doing and what is our vision for the future, and he used to guide us.
General Sir, we'll end this show today with only one important observation, that I have seen a few chief of army staff, including our very avid patron, General V.K. Singh, current Minister of State in Road Transport and Civil Aviation. Definitely one thing is for sure, if there are things we can learn from General V.K. Singh, there are quite a few things with that we need to unlearn from General V.K. Singh. And but I'm really, striving for words to say what are the things that we can unlearn from your personality, because you seem to have a personality which is like a universal solvent. It's like water, with which everything, can mix up. And you can, put your foot down. You're somebody who is really shown one quality of a great leader, that he knows to put his foot down when it is really required, and he knows when it is required. Thank you so much, General Sir.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to everyone.